Howdy Spacers, and welcome back to Blank Space Dolls. This tutorial will actually be the first in a new series for my channel titled Fashion Mashups, where I take a series of words and combine them to create a custom doll. The words I was given for this project were neon, teal, goth, and glam. I used a lot of the goth-inspired aesthetic for this project, but also infused the remaining words into different features of the custom. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your post notifications so you don't miss any of my future content. But for now, grab your black eyeliner, neon fur and leather, and let's get started. As a base doll, I decided to go with Jane Boolittle from the Monster High series as I loved her purple skin tone, and we're just going to start by prepping the head as usual by wiping away the factory paint using 100% acetone. Since I would be rerouting her using black yarn, I was able to save the black factory paint on her head, and I'm mainly focusing my rerouting on the bangs and the part lines of the hair because that's what would be showing. We will come back to the hair later, but for now let's wrap it up and go ahead and start on her face up. I begin laying down the initial eye shape using my Derwent watercolor pencil in Imperial Purple, just to begin to give me that initial eye shape that I'm looking for and lay down initial groundwork before I go in and deepen and darken all of those colors. I normally always try to go in with a color similar to the skin tone that I'm using, just so that way if I make any mistakes that it's easy to correct or erase. And I'm also going to be using this same watercolor pencil to begin to sketch in that initial shape of the lips and the eyebrows as well. Then I begin to fill in the sclera portion of her eye using my tried and true General's Pastel chalk pencil in white. I talk about this pencil all the time, but just look at this opacity that you get in just the first layer. I love this pencil so much. Here's what she looks like after being sealed with Mr. Super Clear. In the second layer is where you can go in and begin to define those initial lines that you put down, and I'm actually going to go in with my Derwent Inktense watercolor pencil in ink black to begin drawing in the eyeliner. To begin putting down an eyeshadow base, I use my Mungyo soft pastels in charcoal gray, and this is actually just going to give me the initial shadow that I need and groundwork to go off of. Normally I would use black, but I think charcoal gray just complements her purple skin tone a little bit better and is less harsh and muddy. And of course, to add a little shimmer to the skin, I go in with my PearlEX powders in Macro Pearl, just to add those initial shimmers, especially in the underlayers, because I will be layering this up. It's better to add the PearlEX powder in a few layers versus just in the top layer, because this way it builds up and the MSC is going to mute those down just a little bit, so you want to make sure that that's still visible. Then you're going to go ahead and seal that again with Mr. Super Clear. In the third layer is where I begin to add the iris colored portions of her eyes, and I'm actually going to go in with my Derwent Inktense watercolor pencil in teal green. Yes, teal. That's where I ended up working this word in. I was racking my brain trying to figure out how to make teal work in this custom, and I thought teal eyes would look really great and be a really nice contrast with her purple skin tone, so that's what I did. I wanted to achieve a dark and vampy lip color, but I didn't want to use black, so I decided to go ahead and layer the lips with this Derwent watercolor pencil in fuchsia, and I think when you mix that and the purple, it gave you this perfect burgundy color, which I think definitely completed the look. Then I begin to detail the irises using my General's Pastel chalk pencil in white. I've actually learned and started doing this on a lot of my customs because I think it makes the eye appear lighter without actually using a lighter watercolor pencil on it. If I can offer one suggestion to all of my new customizers, please don't feel rushed. You really do have to go back and forth between the same colors over and over just to make sure that you're building up that color and adding small details when necessary. So you can see here I'm going back in with my teal watercolor pencil and just cleaning up those initial white marks that I just made as well, just to ensure that the color balance and blend looks very seamless and natural. Then I'm going to go back in with my white pencil and begin to add highlights to the face, on the cupid's bow of the lips, and right underneath the eyebrows, as well as darkening that fuchsia color on the lips. After fixing the eyeliner a little bit more, I go back in with my ink black watercolor pencil and begin to add the fine hairs into the eyebrows. I think that a lot of people have questions about why I leave this spacing in my eyebrows. It is a little bit odd, but I found that it helps me make sure that I don't forget to add these small hair details in. More shimmer! I'm going back in with PearlEX powder in Micro Pearl this time and adding a highlight to the inner corner of the waterline. I've actually seen this on makeup tutorials and I'm not really sure what it does, but I do like the look, so I do it quite a bit on some of my dolls that are a little bit more glamorous. And here's what she looks like after being sprayed again with Mr. Super Clear Sealant. For some reason, after sealing at that time, the initial white that I had laid down in the iris portions of her eye became translucent, so I'm going back over it one more time just to build up that color opacity a little bit more. Like I said, sometimes you do have to go over it a few times before you get the color that you want. And then I'm going to use this same pencil to begin to highlight those individual hairs in the eyebrows as well. Here she is again after being sealed with Mr. Super Clear. In the fifth layer is where I go in and begin to add my eye shines using the Liquitex basic acrylic color in titanium white. And if you've been with me for a while, you'll of course recognize my signature circular eye shines. Then back in with my PearlEX powder in Macro Pearl to finish off that shine layer. Like I said, I do layer this up so that way it gives dimension, and when it's sealed with Mr. Super Clear, it kind of dulls that shine a little bit, so this just makes sure that it shines through. And here's that completed face up after the final layer of Mr. Super Clear. Now that her face is complete, we can begin with the outfit. I'm actually going to be using a combination of materials, but let's start with the patterns first. The first pattern that we're going to be making is the well-requested, or highly requested I should say, the fur coat from my previous tutorial. I wanted to make sure that I showed you guys in depth and really gave you something to follow as I begin to draw it out. So what I'm going to do is take a scrap piece of paper and fold it in half and kind of draw lines based on the length of the jacket that I want. And this is a very simple pattern and an easy way to make it. So all you have to do is watch what I'm doing on screen and it should help a little bit more than even my voice will. I really wanted to make sure that I streamlined this fur coat pattern to make it really easy to follow, and it's fairly simple because you can see here that I'm really just sketching out a rectangular shape, and here you'll see me marking lines for the seam allowance because you will need that in the final construction of the fur jacket, and then you're just going to go ahead and cut that shape out. And then once that's done, you're actually going to take that pattern and fold it in half again, and you're going to cut a semicircle out of the top portion where your actual fold is, and that's actually going to become where your neckline is. And then you're going to open it, refine the front portion of that opening again by cutting it in half, and that's actually going to be your front flap where the zipper or opening of the jacket would be. Then you'll fold it back in half one more time and just kind of refine the opening shape of that, just so that way the front is a little bit different from the back neckline. So you want it to kind of droop down a little bit so there's more of an opening so you can see the outfit underneath. I'm also going to place the measurements of all of this on the screen for you, and I'm going to go silent for a little bit just so that way you can kind of pay attention to what I'm doing. This is what the patterns for your fur coat should look like. The next pattern we're going to create is going to be for the leather pants or leather leggings, however you want to look at it. And I do that the same way as I did for the jacket. I just lay my doll body out and kind of sketch around the body, and then I'll draw my initial shapes around that. And you'll see here in a moment that I completely failed at making this pattern. Like I said, my patterns are not 100% fail-safe, but I do show you how to fix it as well. When you trace this around, I ended up making them too small and there wasn't enough seam allowance, which I should have known from making the fur coat that you always have to leave seam allowance, but I did not. So I will show you in just a second how to fix that, but yeah. So this is the failed pattern that we did at first, but we're going to use that failed pattern and actually sketch around it with the seam allowance and give it a little bit more shape in order to fix it, and it actually ends up working out a lot better the second time. This is the shape you want for your leather pants or leather leggings. It does look a little bit large, but as I've said, you've left enough room for seam allowance so you can sew the pieces together, and here I am just refining the waist shape just a little bit more to make sure that it fits around and there's no gap. So this is what all of your patterns will look like once they're all complete. We have the leather pants, the fur coat, and the sleeve. The fur coat, I'll use this neon pink fur, and for the leather leggings, I'm actually going to be using this stretchy faux leather material. Now that you have your patterns all made, all you have to do is cut them out on your actual material, and of course remember you need to cut out 2 of the sleeves. And here I'm showing the sleeves that I have, and what I actually had to do was trim the fur a little bit because it was a little bit too wild. And you're going to want to do the same thing with the fur, is leave that seam allowance, and I actually thinned out the fur around the seam allowance to make sure that it was very flush and didn't create too much bulkiness around the seam areas. Because there was no way I was getting this little tiny sleeve under my sewing machine and then turning it inside out, I actually decided to hand stitch all the way up both sleeves and up the side seams of the fur coat just to make sure that I got the correct fit that I wanted and I was able to control it a little bit more. And I feel like I never really show me sewing items in my videos, so be sure to let me know in the comment section below, do you guys want to see some of that process more, especially when I'm sewing on my machines, or is that something that you just want to kind of leave up to the imagination and just leave me explaining it? Once the sleeve is sewn up, I'm actually going to attach it to the side seam of the jacket by including it in there, and then I actually do use a pin to hold it in place. And then I'm just going to sew up the complete side and around the sleeve and back down the other side. And look at how cute this little fur coat is. Every time I make one of these, I'm just blown away because I just think they're so adorable. I think everything is just so much cuter in miniature. Don't you guys agree? Okay, Jacob, focus. So then I go in with this nice ribbon and I fold it in half, and this is going to become the trimming for my jacket, and this just finishes those edges so it feels a little bit more refined and finished, and you don't leave those raw edges exposed. And then I do leave a little bit of extra seam allowance on the ribbon as well, so that way I can overlap the initial start of the ribbon also. And I'm going to hand stitch all the way around this twice, just to make sure that it's a very snug fit. And here's what it looks like when it's done, and you can just see it adds a little bit of just refinement and finish to the edges. Now on to the leggings. You can see that I've cut out 2, which this is going to be the front and the back panel of the actual leggings, and then I also cut out a rectangular top. Just a simple top because it is a stretch material, it's really easy to fit onto the doll's bust. Then we're just going to pin the leggings good side to good side and sew up those side seams as well. And once you've sewn all the way around those seams, this is what you're left with, and you're just going to turn it inside out, and this looks so funny. I swear I did not think these were going to fit, and I got so nervous, but you can see here in this next clip that they fit perfectly fine. They actually are a better fit than I thought they would be, just because you did make them a little bit snug, and the material is a stretch material, so they fit so nice. I was very happy with how they turned out. Initially, I was going to actually add closures to the top, but I decided to just fabric tack it onto her body just so that way it had a more slim fit. and there was no bulkiness added underneath the jacket. And now it's time for the details and extras. I'm actually going to be using this jewelry wire to create a small nose ring. For my doll, I personally have a nose ring, so I thought that this would be a cute little detail to add to her, and I feel like it matched the goth glam aesthetic that I was going for as well. And I actually secured that using Eileen's tacky glue, which dries clear, and I love it so much. And then I'm gonna go in and I have these temporary tattoos, which I believe someone sent to me from Instagram. I can't remember who, and I feel so bad because I was so thankful when I got them. But they're the perfect doll scale size, and I think that they're so adorable, and I decided to choose this like pink floral one, and I actually ended up putting a black and white one on her back as well. Here I'm going to show all of those small details, all of the earrings, the nose ring, the tattoo that I placed on her stomach, and then she also has the tree tattoo that I placed in the center of her back. Because she was still feeling a little bit unfinished, I decided I was going to make a harness and give her a belt. And I'm actually going to be using the ribbon, this chain, and then these small jewelry jump rings. And I've actually shown a tutorial on how I connect these before, which I'll make sure to leave that in an iCard above. But it's fairly simple. You just use tacky glue and connect all of the ribbons individually to the jump rings, and you just connect them in shapes that you want, whatever shape you're trying to achieve. This is just the shape that I decided to go with. Here's what that harness looks like once it's attached to her body. I just used Fabri-Tac glue to make sure that was a permanent bond. And I also decided to make her a belt, which you'll see a loop at the front and a loop at the back, because that's where I want to add these small chain details. These chains are totally giving me 90s vibes. Anyone else? Now we can finally circle back to the hair. I made these hair wefts off camera, and I'm just using those to fill in the rest of the hairline. And to style it, I just pulled it back in a low bun and added a curler to her bangs because I kind of wanted it to give the appearance of like a Betty bang, if you guys know what that is, just like one of those short retro bangs. Of course, no blank space face would be complete without 3D lashes, and these are the style that I used, and I feel like they just add so much life to my customs, and I could never create a doll without them. Here on my channel, whenever you think the custom is finally done, there's always one more accessory. I can never help myself. I always just do the utmost. So here you'll see me making just a simple bag for her to carry, and I make a simple pattern tracing it on a sticky note on the fold, transferring that to my faux leather material, and I'm going to cut out 2 front and back panels, 1 flap, and 1 side perimeter panel, just to go around the entire perimeter of the purse. And I'm actually going to attach that with hot glue. I've shown sewing methods, but I wanted to show a simpler method of making a bag for this tutorial, and this is what it looks like once it's connected. I go over the entire thing with Liquitex basic acrylic color in black, and I'm going to use the same jump rings and the chain that I used on her belt to make the strap. I also had these random charms from a Kuku Harajuku doll that I had, and I just stuck those on there as well because I was like, oh, they're so cute, and I think it adds a little bit of whimsy to her otherwise harsh outfit. I chose these translucent shoes from Spectra Wundergeist because I feel like they completed the goth glam aesthetic. And with that being said, let's take a look at the final photos. Let's all welcome Eden to the Blank Space family. She was definitely a challenge to combine all the prompt words into one cohesive theme, but I think I managed to achieve a fully realized character. What do you guys think? Let's open this theme up to you. Comment below for prompt words as a challenge for me, and I'll feature one lucky comment and create a custom doll based on it. As for my next video, I'm totally hearing bells. Can you hear them too? Don't forget, you can always see my work in progresses and other customs on my Instagram by searching @BlankSpaceDolls, where in my world, there's always a blank space. Let's customize it together. Until next time, Spacers, see you soon.